Ladies and gentlemen, excuses are chains we forge with our own words. They are poverty's favorite melody, sung by those who have forgotten their own strength. Disguised as logic, wearing the mask of reason, excuses offer a false sense of security. But make no mistake, every excuse is a prison. Not one built from bars or walls, but one made of mindset, belief, and identity. Excuses don't protect you, they weaken you. They steal your power and whisper lies like you're not ready, you're too tired, or you've already tried. And if you listen long enough, those lies become your truth. But here's the real truth. No legacy was ever built on reasons why something couldn't be done. No empire rose through rationalization. No greatness was ever born from the phrase, I would have. Excuses are the language of those who've surrendered. They are the anthem of mediocrity, the lullabies of those who traded their purpose for comfort. And once you begin to speak that language, it becomes your currency, a currency that might buy sympathy but never freedom. It buys temporary relief, but it keeps you trapped in limited vision, trapped in fear, trapped in cycles of inaction. This currency leads to poverty, not just financial, but mental, emotional, and spiritual. Because poverty begins in the mind. And a mind that runs on excuses will never create wealth of any kind. You want to know how people stay stuck, why they relive the same problems, face the same setbacks, and settle for the same paycheck year after year? It's because they explain their situation, they justify it, and they create stories that sound reasonable but are rooted in fear. It's not the right time. I don't have the resources. I wasn't born with the talent. These aren't facts. They're scripts, rehearsed lines, passed down from those who chose fear over freedom. And the moment you stop questioning them, the moment you accept them without challenge, you begin living a life shaped by someone else's limitations. But if you're here, if you're still listening, then something inside you hasn't given up. That spark is still alive. It means you're ready to stop speaking the language of lack. Now is the time to trade it in. Trade your excuses for execution. Trade trade self-doubt for discipline. Because each time you silence an excuse and take a step forward anyway, you take back control. You reclaim a piece of who you are. In doing so, you declare, I am not powerless. You declare, I am not defined by my limits. You say, I don't have time to explain why I can't because I'm too busy proving that I can. And that's where real wealth begins, not just in money, but in who you become, in your character, your energy, your consistency, your mastery. Every moment you excuses are the reason so many live inside cages with the doors wide open, never realizing that they were free to walk out all along. Don't let that become your story. Every time you let an excuse lead your life, you're making a payment, and that payment is your potential, quietly slipping away in exchange for the temporary comfort of, I'll do it later. But later rarely comes. Later is the place where dreams go to die. And the longer you delay, the heavier your excuses become until they no longer feel like decisions, but your identity. Eventually, those excuses shape who you are. They rob you of confidence, cloud your clarity, drain your drive, and destroy your results. You end up a shell of what you could have become. But it doesn't have to be that way. You don't have to become a spokesperson for mediocrity. You can choose a different language right now. The language of focus, strength, and a wealth-driven mindset. That shift starts with ownership. Radical, full, unapologetic ownership. No more blaming the system. No more blaming your upbringing, your boss, your past, your genetics, or your environment. Because the moment you assign someone else responsibility for your situation, you also hand them control over your power. But when you say, this is mine, my life, my responsibility, my decision, that's when the chains fall away. That's when true wealth begins to build. Not just in your bank account, but in your soul. Wealth naturally responds to those who take ownership of their direction. Ownership is the seed, and when it's planted in the fertile ground of a strong mindset, everything starts to grow. Understand this, mindset isn't about wishful thinking. It's about grounded power. It's not about hoping everything works out. It's about preparing for every scenario and trusting yourself to shape the outcome. The poor in mindset ask, what if this fails? The wealthy in mindset ask, how will I respond when it does, and how quickly will I get back up? Mindset is your stronghold. It's the vault that protects your habits, shields your energy, and defends your future. When your mindset is strong, you don't wait for motivation. You move. Movement becomes your default. And the difference between those who succeed and those who stay stuck isn't luck, it's language. When your internal dialogue is built on excuses, your external results suffer. But when your words shift toward ownership and clarity, everything begins to align. Because the universe doesn't respond to emotion or intention, it responds to action. It hears the frequency of belief, of discipline, of purpose. And those frequencies, they move mountains. When your mindset sharpens, belief becomes your inner fire. Not belief in vague ideas or passing inspiration, but belief in yourself. And that kind of belief isn't stumbled upon, it's forged. It's created in silence, in solitude, when no one's watching, when no one's clapping. It's built when you follow through, especially when it's hard. Belief is born from self-trust, and self-trust is the true currency of success, because the world doesn't reward who you pretend to be, it rewards who you consistently are. If you consistently show up scattered, hesitant, or afraid, don't be surprised when life mirrors that back to you. But if you show up clear, for me, walk in with conviction, you stop chasing outcomes. You begin to attract them. Because clarity is magnetic. And when you're clear, excuses become irrelevant. You no longer say, I don't feel like it. You say, my feelings no longer vote. My future does. You stop asking, is this hard? And start asking, is this aligned? You stop chasing comfort and start pursuing alignment. And that alignment gives birth to vision. A vision so sharp that quitting would feel like betrayal. A vision so vivid you can almost taste it the moment you wake up. Vision isn't a fantasy, it's a command. It demands more from you than fear ever could. It silences excuses. And once you lock into it, they no longer even sound convincing. You no longer have time for maybe. There's no room left for someday. You've outgrown waiting. You're building now. You're becoming. You're moving with direction and intention. And purpose doesn't concern itself with your feelings today. It cares only about the commitment you made when you were at your lowest, pleading for a second chance. That's what purpose does. It remembers. It remembers the nights you whispered, never again. It remembers the quiet promises you made when no one else could hear you. And now it's calling you to honor them. Excuses ask for release, but purpose, it demands resolve. And once purpose begins to live inside you, discipline transforms into something sacred. It becomes the highest form of self-respect. You stop bargaining with laziness. You stop debating your limitations. You stop waiting for motivation. You simply show up. And in that showing up, you sever the ties to poverty, not just financial poverty, but the deeper kinds, the mental, emotional, and spiritual forms of lack. Because you're done living small. You're done speaking the language of limitation. You speak now through your actions, through your standards, through your results, and the world listens. Because behavior speaks louder than any belief. It's not what you whisper to yourself in private, it's what you consistently do in public. It's not what you feel in moments of energy, it's what you build in consistent patterns. Action is identity in motion. If your actions are inconsistent, your identity is uncertain. If your actions are always delayed, your belief system is fragile. If your actions are simply excuses dressed up as logic, then you aren't truly living. You're stalling. But when your actions are deliberate, when your days are structured, when your habits match your hunger, you don't just grow, you become unstoppable. Because there is one thing the world cannot deny: the person who refuses to quit. Not because they're naturally gifted or unusually lucky, but because they've decided to keep moving even when everything around them says stop. And that movement, it's not chaotic, it's intentional. You adapt because now you don't resist change, you ride it. You no longer crave certainty, you command clarity. In the middle of chaos, you don't collapse under pressure, you respond to it. Flexibility becomes your strength, and that adaptability is its own form of wealth, not the kind that glitters, the kind that endures. Because those with a poor mindset break at the first sign of disruption, but those rich in spirit, they bend. they adjust, they evolve, not because they are untouched by challenge, but because they refuse to be broken by it. That's resilience, not bouncing back, but bouncing forward, using setbacks to propel your rise, using pain as fuel, using the silence to deepen your roots and sharpen your edge. Resilience isn't formed in comfort, it's forged in crisis. It's built when your excuses are shouting and you reply, "You no longer speak for me." It's built when your body aches, your mind is fogged, and your heart is heavy, but you show up anyway. Not because it's convenient, because it's necessary. Because regret is no longer something you allow in your life. You know what it feels like to stand still while others rise. You felt the sting of knowing you're capable of more, yet choosing less. And you're done. Done with playing small, done with indecision, done with waiting for someday. Now you rise. And you rise as a student because growth is the only path to real freedom. The moment you stop learning, you begin to decay. So you fuel your mind like a warrior sharpens their blade. You consume truth. You welcome challenge. You embrace discomfort. You no longer fear being wrong because being wrong simply means you're still evolving. You don't need to be the smartest in the room. You just need to be the one who never stops growing. While the limited argue, the powerful adapt. While the stuck defend their excuses, the uncommon refine their execution. And now, so do you. Because you're not here to coast. You're not here to settle. You're not here to fit in with the tired, the tame, and the terrified. You are here to build, to become, to burn through the limits of your past and give birth to someone the world cannot ignore. Stand still, just for a moment. Let it all sink in. Let the excuses, the lies, the dead weight of average fall off you like old skin. Because this is the moment it all changes. Not because something around you shifted, but because you did. This is the moment you stop negotiating with your lesser self. The moment you bury the voice that said you can't with the roar of watch me. The moment the word someday burns into now. Because now you've remembered who you are. You are not here to explain why you couldn't. You are not here to list the reasons it was hard. You are not here to water down your potential just to make the average feel safe. You are here to rise. You are here to become the exception. You are here to build a life so loud with evidence that excuses no longer dare to speak your name. So what's the next excuse? That you're too late. Time doesn't control the one who owns it. That you're too tired. Fatigue bows before purpose. That you've already failed. Then you're one of the lucky ones. Because pain is the only shortcut that truly matters. You are not your mistakes. You are the lesson pulled from the fire. You are not your past. You are the pattern breaker. You are not your circumstance. You are the creator of a new reality, but only if you choose it. Only if you decide that today is the last day you speak the language of the poor. No more I wish. No more I'll try. No more maybe one day. From now on, you say I will. You say watch me. You say this life bends to my will because I no longer bow to mine. Because this is your time. Not when it's easier. Not when it's perfect. Now. Now is the only time that ever mattered. Now is the only door that's real. Now is the only moment that separates you from the life you were given and the life you create. So what will it be? Another year of reasons, another month of stories, another day of playing small? Or will you rise right now and declare with your entire being, excuses are the language of the poor, and I no longer speak that dialect. From now on, I speak results. I speak responsibility. I speak greatness. Because I am done justifying mediocrity. I have work to do. It doesn't take much to kill a dream. You don't need a tragedy. You don't need betrayal. You don't even need failure. All it takes is an excuse. One quiet, rational, believable excuse. And before you know it, the thing you were born to do, the thing you felt in your bones, the thing that lit your soul on fire, dies, not with a bang, but with a whisper. Excuses are elegant killers. They come dressed as logic. They speak the language of reason. They wear the face of safety, of timing, of when things calm down. But make no mistake, they are thieves. Thieves of power, thieves of peace, thieves of potential. And the most dangerous part, they don't come from the outside. They come from within. From the same mind that created the dream. From the same voice that once said, I was made for more. Because every excuse has one mission: to make you comfortable with being less than you could be, less than you said you'd be, less than you were born to be. And they always sound so reasonable. I'm just tired right now. I need more information, maybe next month. I don't want to risk too much. But here's the truth. Burn this into your soul. Failure doesn't destroy dreams. Excuses do. Failure is feedback. Excuses are the funeral. You no longer have time for maybe. You no longer have space for someday. You are done waiting. You're building, you're becoming, you're moving with purpose now. And purpose doesn't care how you feel today. It only cares about who you said you would be when you were on your knees begging for another chance. That's purpose. Purpose remembers. It remembers the nights you said never again. It remembers the promises you whispered when no one was listening. And now it's holding you to them. Because excuses want release, but purpose demands resolve. And once purpose lives in you, discipline becomes sacred. Discipline becomes your highest expression of self-love. You stop negotiating with laziness. You stop arguing with excuses. You stop asking for motivation. You show up, and that showing up is the knife that cuts the cord from poverty, not just financial poverty, but mental, emotional, and spiritual lack, because you are done living small. You are done speaking the language of the poor. Now you speak in action. You speak in standards. You speak in results, and the world listens. Because now you speak in behavior, and behavior is the loudest belief system. It's not what you say in your quiet moments. It's what you repeat in your public ones. It's not what you feel in bursts. It's what you build in patterns. Action is identity in motion. So if your actions are scattered, your identity is unsure. If your actions are delayed, your belief is weak. If your actions are excuses dressed in logic, then you are not living, you are stalling. But when your actions become disciplined, when your days become precise, when your habits mirror your hunger, then you don't just make progress, you become because there's something the world cannot deny. The man or woman who refuses to stop. Not because they're gifted, not because they're lucky, but because they made the decision to move forward, even when everything screamed stay. And that movement is not random, it's adaptable. Because now you no longer resist change, you command clarity inside chaos. You no longer fold under pressure, you flex with it. Adaptability is wealth, not the wealth that shines, the wealth that survives, the wealth that lasts. Because the poor in mindset break at the first sign of change, but the rich in spirit bend, they morph, they reinvent, not because they're unshaken, but because they're unbreakable. And that unbreakable spirit, that's called resilience. It's not bounce back, it's bounce forward. It's using the fall to catapult your rise. It's using the wound to sharpen your weapon. It's using the silence to deepen your roots. Because resilience isn't built in comfort, it's built in crisis. It's built when your excuses are screaming and you tell them, you don't speak for me anymore. It's built when your body is tired, your mind is foggy, and your heart is aching, but you still show up. Not because it's easy, because it's required. Because regret is no longer welcome here. You've seen what happens when you live in excuses. You've felt what it's like to watch others rise while you explain your limits. You've tasted what it means to know you're capable of more and still choose less. And you are done. Done with smallness, done with softness, done with maybe someday. Now you rise. And you rise as a learner because you know growth is the only guarantee of freedom. And the moment you stop learning, you start decaying. So you feed your mind like a warrior sharpens their sword. You devour truth. You devour challenge. You devour discomfort. You no longer fear being wrong, because being wrong means you're still becoming. You no longer need to be the smartest. You just need to be the one who never stops evolving. Because while the poor argue, the powerful adapt. While the stuck defend their excuses, the uncommon study their execution. And now so do you, because you're not here to coast. You're not here to settle. You're not here to fit in with the tired, tame, and terrified. You are here to build, to become, to burn through the limits of your past and give birth to someone the world cannot ignore. Then stand still for just a moment. Let it all sink in. Let the excuses, the lies, the dead weight of average fall off you like old skin. Because this is the moment it all changes. Not because something around you shifted, but because you did. This is the moment you stop negotiating with your lesser self. This is the moment you bury the voice that said you can't with the roar of, watch me. This is the moment the word someday burns into now, because now you've remembered who you are. You are not here to explain why you couldn't. You are not here to list the reasons it was hard. You are not here to water down your potential to make the average feel safe. You are here to rise. You are here to become the exception. You are here to build a life so loud with evidence that excuses no longer dare to speak your name. Oh, so what's the next excuse? That you're too late? Time doesn't control the one who owns it. That you're too tired? Fatigue bows before purpose. That you've already failed? Then you're one of the lucky ones. Because pain is the only shortcut that matters. You are not your mistakes. You are the lesson pulled from the fire. You are not your past, you are the pattern breaker. You are not your circumstance, you are the creator of new reality. But only if you choose it. Only if you decide that today is the last day you speak the language of the poor. No more I wish. No more I'll try. No more maybe one day. From now on, you say, I will. You say, watch me. You say, this life bends to my will because I no longer bow to mine, because this is your time. Not when it's easier, not when it's perfect, now. Now is the only time that ever mattered. Now is the only door that's real. Now is the only moment that separates you from the life you were given and the life you create. So what will it be? Another year of reasons? Another month of stories? Another day of playing small? Or will you rise right now and declare with your entire being, excuses are the language of the poor, and I no longer speak that dialect. From now on, I speak results. I speak responsibility. I speak greatness. Because I am done justifying mediocrity, and I have work to do. They were just easier to accept than the pain of responsibility. But you've grown past that now. You've looked your excuses in the eye and said, I'm done with you. I'm done pretending you're protection. I'm done mistaking you for strategy. I choose movement. I choose mission. I choose me. And now the dream that once flickered burns. Because when the fire is real, you don't need permission. You don't wait for the perfect mood, the right lighting, or the applause. You move because you must. You show up because anything less feels like betrayal, not to others, but to yourself. Because once you've seen what you're capable of, truly seen it, you can't unsee it. You can't go back to pretending that excuses are acceptable. You can't go back to numbing your potential with comfort. You can't go back to shrinking your vision just to fit into a routine that was never meant to contain you. Because now you've tasted ownership. You've stood on the edge of your limitation and pushed forward anyway. And that taste, it's addictive. It makes everything else feel hollow. The distractions, the drama, the fake urgency, the mindless scrolling, the meetings with no meaning, the habits that suck your soul dry, they all feel offensive now because they cost you something sacred, time that could have been invested in becoming. So now, instead of excuses, you build evidence. Instead of reasons, you build results. Instead of doubt, you build discipline. And people will notice, but they won't always understand. They'll say, you've changed. Yes, you have, because staying the same was killing you slowly, because making excuses was dimming your light, because every time you chose comfort over conviction, a piece of your fire went cold, and you've had enough. You've buried too many dreams already. You've watched too many maybe one days turn into never happened. You've heard the stories of people who waited and died with their greatness still locked inside them. That will not be your story. Not because you're fearless, but because you've chosen something greater than fear, responsibility. You've chosen to look your potential in the eye and say, I will not leave you behind. You've chosen to show up for the vision even when it's inconvenient, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's lonely, because excuses don't survive in that kind of climate. They melt under the heat of consistency. They dissolve in the presence of purpose. And now you carry that presence, not because you were born with it, but because you built it. One decision at a time, one no more at a time. One day where you showed up anyway, just to prove to yourself, I'm done letting excuses run my life. So let's finish this with the fire it deserves, because you didn't come this far to stay you didn't walk through pain, through setbacks, through every ounce of self-doubt, just to arrive at the edge and let an excuse talk you down. You came to rise. You came to build. You came to become. And if there's anything standing between you and the life you know is yours, it's not the world, it's not the system, it's not the timing, it's that tiny voice inside that whispers, not today. You're not ready. You're not enough. That voice is the excuse, and it sounds like a suggestion, but it's a sentence. Every time you listen to it, a part of your strength withers. Every time you obey it, a door closes that might never open again. Every time you surrender to it, you trade who you could become for who you were afraid to stop being. But that trade ends today, because now, finally, you see it for what it is. Excuses aren't innocent. They're weapons of mass distraction. They don't just delay action, they dismantle identity. But not yours, not anymore. Because now you walk in clarity. Now you walk in conviction. Now every step you take is backed by a soul that's decided, I will not die with my dreams still in me. I will not tell my children stories about what I almost did. I will not carry this fire and let it go cold because I was too scared to be uncomfortable. You've buried enough potential in the name of someday. You've delayed enough greatness, waiting for a better time. You've made enough excuses, dressed in the clothing of logic, when deep down you knew there were lies. Lies meant to keep you safe. Lies meant to keep you still. Lies meant to keep you small. But now you've grown too much to pretend. Now your standards are louder than your fears. Now your habits are stronger than your hesitation. Now your actions speak so loudly that excuses no longer have a voice in your story. Because this is your story now, written in courage, paved with discipline, built on days where you wanted to quit, but didn't. This is your life, not the one you hoped for, not the one you explained, but the one you built with and that life, it's waiting, not in the distance, but in the next decision. So choose and make it final, because the world does not need another reason why you could not. It needs a living, breathing example of what happens when someone finally says, enough, no more excuses, I choose to rise. And that someone is you.